Today, what we're introducing is the multi tiered intervention system that has been adopted by the social science department at the Carlsbad High School. The purpose of this multi tiered intervention system is to use the pyramid model to raise student achievement by breaking the cycle of failure. And what is now magically appearing on your screen is the model that makes up the learning process that has been adopted by the social science department at CHS. And as you can see, that model takes the shape of a pyramid, which has been used by many districts across the country as their three-tier intervention model. Ours is a little bit different because we've actually incorporated assessment into this model. And in doing so, we have shown the interrelationship between assessment and the three-tiered model of intervention. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the characteristics of this learning process. A typical unit in the social science department begins with the teacher distributing the unit goal sheet. This is a statement of the learning goals for the students. So before any teaching goes on in the unit, the students and all stakeholders can clearly see what they're expected to learn. Next is what is known as Tier 1 intervention, and this is actually a series of lessons that is taught over a course of weeks, each lesson designed to teach one or more of the content standards. Those lessons include both formal and informal feedback from the teacher, where students will get feedback on assignments, and they'll also get feedback informally just as they're going through their daily lessons. After a couple of weeks of instruction, and all the content goals have been taught, then we go into the practice knowledge test. And this is an assessment for learning. It does not go in the grade book. The results are really for students to find out what they know and what they don't know. The practice knowledge test results are scanned into the student's Illuminate account, and the Illuminate account will actually analyze for the students specifically which content goals they have mastered and which content goals are learning gaps that still need to be addressed. And that gives the students a couple of days to go through Tier 2 intervention. Tier 2 intervention would be a self-remediation where students have available to them in Google Classroom an intervention menu, and that menu would be organized by content goal so that they can pick out the specific activities aligned to a content goal where they find that, according to the Illuminate analysis, that they have a learning gap. Now, certainly we encourage during Tier 2 intervention as students prepare for the final unit test, we encourage the students to really review all 5 content goals, even ones that they mastered according to the Illuminate results. But they want to spend the lion's share of their time preparing for the final unit test by focusing on the content goals that were red flagged by their Illuminate analysis. The next meeting after the practice knowledge test will be the final unit test. And their students will take an assessment of their learning. And this is the one that actually goes into the grade book where teachers find out whether students have mastered their learning goals or not. For those students that still, after all of this process, have not been able to master their content goals, then they need to move into Tier 3 intervention. And the problem seems to be not actually acquiring content, but there seems to be some kind of roadblock for them that is stopping them from learning that content. And so we need to identify what that roadblock is and provide appropriate skills by which students can overcome that roadblock so that they can learn in the future. So let's take a look at the learning process in another form, more of a chronological approach. As I said before, the atypical unit starts with meeting 1. At the start of the unit, they're provided a unit goal sheet which clearly defines the content goal standards. Then meetings 1 through 9, and once again, it may be a few more meetings. It might be a few less meetings, but around 9 meetings, students will go through and participate in a variety of lessons that are designed to help them learn the content standards and provide them feedback along the way. Then, after all the content goal standards have been taught, then it's time for the practice knowledge test. And this is the assessment for learning. It does not go in the grade book, but the results are really for students to find out what they know and what they don't know, which they can find out according to the Illuminate analysis in their Illuminate account. Then, prior to meeting 11, when the final unit test will be given, students and their parents can review the Illuminate analysis of the practice knowledge test, and they can see which content goals have been identified as learning gaps and where they have mastered some content goals. And they can make an individualized learning plan by utilizing the intervention menu to help them increase their achievement before they're tested at meeting 11. So, what does that intervention look like in Tier 2? Well, it's posted in Google Classroom and it looks something like this. This would be the first of probably a 3-page menu. And what you see here are a number of things. First off, is that students are self directed here and they will be working on their own to create their own personal plan according to their Illuminate results. In the first column will be listed all of the content goals, and this is only the first page, so you only see content goal number 1 listed here, but on the subsequent pages, the remainder of the 5 content goals are listed in this first column. This will help the student identify which activities are aligned to which content goals, and they could focus on those activities that are aligned to the content goals that Illuminate has red flagged as a learning gap. The middle column, column 2, gives a list of content attainment activities. These are all parallel activities. They will all give the same information, but they give them in a variety of forms because some students learn well by reading. There is reading out of the textbook. Some students learn well by listening, and so there are recorded lectures that are sliding guides. And then some students learn well by watching, and so there are videos to watch that will give them the content on that particular content goal. The third column identifies some activities that they can work with the content just to check for learning. If they can easily make their way through the questions or the map activity or the charts or the diagrams or the crossword puzzles or whatever activities are listed in this third column, then they probably understand the material well. If they have trouble doing these basic activities, then they probably need to go back and do more of the content attainment activities until they have mastered the content of that learning goal. So once they've gone through Tier 2 intervention, then it's time for the final unit test, and that will be the assessment of the student learning, and that will be what will go into the grade book. Those students who fail to achieve the content standards need to be identified and they need to be given and provided the skills necessary to overcome whatever roadblocks they are having to learning. Because if we clearly publish what students are supposed to learn, we've gone through and taught them lessons designed to do so and given them feedback along the way. We've given them a practice test where they've identified exactly what they know and what they don't know, and given them the opportunity to self remediate and learn those content goals they do not know yet, and they still haven't learned them, then there must be something else that is preventing them. So we need to remove those roadblocks to learning, and unfortunately, there is no like one silver bullet to this. And that's because there may be a variety of reasons, and sometimes even a combination of reasons why students are having difficulty learning. Could be poor reading skills, could be learning disabilities, could be limited English language skills, could be emotional distractions, could be a lack of study skills, could be just generally motivation issues. Whatever the reasons that are stopping students from learning, we need to identify them and give them the skills to overcome these roadblocks so that they can be successful in the future. Now, that's not going to help them on the unit that they've just taken because of the responsibilities of the course. We need to move on to the next unit. So, as you can see, Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention both happen during Unit 1. Tier 3, though, actually happens while we have started our next unit. But it's important to address those roadblocks so that we don't have the same failure over and over again for the same reasons. That we need to address those roadblocks so that they can be successful on Unit 2.